It began as a routine overnight flight, one of hundreds crisscrossing the skies. But on December 29, 1972, a single burned-out light would set in motion a disaster that would haunt aviation history for decades. Eastern Airlines Flight 401 was a regular service from New York's JFK to Miami International Airport. On board was a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, one of the brand new aircraft owned by Eastern. In the cockpit were three experienced aviators: Captain Robert Loft, age 55 with nearly 29,700 flight hours; First Officer Albert Stockstill, age 39 with about 5,800 flight hours; and Flight Engineer Donald Repo, age 51 with more than 15,700 hours in the air. Also aboard was a maintenance technical officer, Angelo Donadeo, travelling as a passenger. The flight departed JFK at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time, carrying 163 passengers and 13 crew members. Everything was routine as they approached Miami close to midnight. As the aircraft prepared to land, the pilots noticed that the nose gear down and locked green indicator light had failed to illuminate. It appeared to be a simple bulb issue, nothing unusual, but it would prove fatal. The crew retracted and extended the gear again, but the light still didn't come on. Captain Loft requested a holding pattern over the Florida Everglades at 2,000 feet, while they tried to troubleshoot the problem. Flight Engineer Repo removed the light assembly to inspect it, and even climbed down beneath the cockpit floor to look through a small window to visually confirm that the nose gear was indeed locked. During this process, the captain instructed the first officer to engage the autopilot. Unknown to them, a small bump or pressure on the control column likely switched the autopilot to a different mode, one that held pitch rather than altitude. The aircraft began a very gradual descent. Inside the cockpit, the crew's attention was fully focused on the faulty light. They didn't notice that the plane was slowly losing altitude. Outside, there were no visible ground lights, just the dark expanse of the Everglades. A soft chime sounded to warn of altitude deviation, but in the noise and distraction, it went unheard. Seconds later, First Officer Stockstill suddenly noticed something wrong. "We did something to the altitude," he said. Moments after, at 11:42 p.m., Flight 401 struck the swampy terrain of the Everglades. The left wing hit first, followed by the engines and fuselage. The aircraft broke apart, scattering wreckage over hundreds of meters. Of the 176 people on board, 101 were killed, including all three cockpit crew members. 75 survived, though all were injured. The crash site was deep in the swamp, but help came from unexpected heroes, local airboat pilots Bud Marcus and Ray Dickinson, who had seen the explosion from afar. They rushed toward the wreckage, pulling survivors from the water despite fires and spilled jet fuel. Flight attendants, many severely injured, helped passengers escape and warned them not to light matches due to the fuel. Some survivors recalled singing Christmas carols to stay calm while waiting for rescue in the cold, dark swamp. Eastern's senior vice president, former astronaut Frank Borman, personally flew to the crash site to assist rescue operations. The investigation that followed was led by the National Transportation Safety Board. It found that the autopilot had been inadvertently switched from altitude hold to control wheel steering mode. This meant the aircraft would respond to small manual inputs, and when the captain leaned over to speak to the engineer, he likely nudged the yoke just enough to begin a gradual descent. The crew, distracted by the landing gear light, failed to notice the drop in altitude until it was too late. The NTSB concluded that the probable cause was the failure of the flight crew to monitor flight instruments during the final 4 minutes of flight. But the story of Flight 401 didn't end with the investigation. Soon after the crash, rumours began to spread among airline staff. Parts salvaged from the wreckage had been reused in other Eastern L-1011s, and crew members began reporting strange experiences. Some claimed to see ghostly figures resembling Captain Loft or Flight Engineer Repo appearing on board. Others reported mysterious voices or unexplained malfunctions. The tales became so widespread that Eastern's management publicly denied them and threatened disciplinary action against employees who spread such stories. Even so, the rumours persisted. Eventually, the airline quietly removed all salvaged parts from its fleet, hoping to end the speculation. Whether the hauntings were real or just folklore, they became a lasting part of aviation legend.